Hey there folks, John here with Through My Lens, and today I'm coming to you with another knife-related video. Today I'm going to be doing a review of this Jason Guthrie Ranger. Now the knife I'm taking a look at today does not belong to me. It was graciously loaned to me for review by a local friend who many of you on Instagram will recognize as LiveWake1, a longtime member of the online knife enthusiast community and a prolific collector. So thanks much to LiveWake1 for this loan. Now, Jason Guthrie is a name that many may not be familiar among my subscribers, but he's a custom knife maker from South Africa who now lives in Norway. When Jason was in South Africa, he worked in the family business, a gun store and shooting range. Jason not only worked as a firearms instructor, but also did some gunsmithing as well. I think it was during this time that he picked up some of the skills that he would use when he transitioned over to knife making. Now, as a firearms enthusiast myself, Jason sounds like a fascinating guy. Like most gun guys, Jason was also a knife guy. Jason also enjoyed the outdoors, so having a good knife was very important. Now by 2014, Jason had started to try to make knives as a hobbyist. And at that time, he apparently was using a Spyderco Military as his primary knife, and his goal was to create a knife that was useful as the military. And because the gun range was such a big part of his life, he called that knife the Ranger. Now this particular example of the Ranger was built in 2015, so it's 6 years old. In speaking with LiveWake1, this knife has been a regular user for him since he got it. Now, having seen the knives in his collection, the fact that he would choose this knife as one of his go-to knives for actual use speaks volumes about this knife. That really impressed me. If you take a look at this one, you can see that there are some signs of use both on the blade. There's some snail trails that can be seen on the titanium frame lock, on the titanium clip side of the knife. So he's definitely been using this. Now the Ranger has a very distinctive look, which for being a titanium frame lock is pretty darn impressive, considering just how many different varieties of titanium frame locks there are out there. The knife was inspired in some respects by the Spyderco Military, which was his go-to carry at the time that he started making knives. The very full flat ground blade, for example, you can kind of get a sense for how the Spyderco Military may have inspired that. However, this is much better example of a full flat grind, if you ask me. It's just gorgeous. Now, other aspects of the design seem to be inspired by one of Guthrie's countrymen from South Africa, Chris Reeve. Perhaps you've heard of him. Guthrie credits Reeve by describing this knife as having the Reeve integral lock. The thumb stud on one side also seems to be inspired by the Svenza. You can see on the clip side there is no corresponding thumb stud. Now besides the water jet frames, everything else is done by hand on this knife. Jason is essentially a one-man operation, which of course means that any of his knives are going to be very difficult to come by, particularly if you want one ordered directly from him to your specifications, as LiveWake1 did with this knife. But my overall impressions of the quality and craftsmanship are that this knife is amazingly precise and well made. I'm also immediately struck by just how lightweight this knife feels. Just 3.77 ounces on my scale, so actually under 4 ounces. The approximately 3.9-inch blade appears to have a satin finish which runs diagonally with the grind lines. That's pretty unique. See if I can possibly capture here so that you can see those grind lines. Really quite nice. Now the spine of the blade features some of the sharpest jimping that I have ever seen on a knife. boy, that really does grab. It's not uncomfortable, and it doesn't harm you in any way, but boy, it certainly does the job in terms of making sure your thumb does not slip off that placement point. Very, very impressive. Again, the jimping is very well placed, and my thumb naturally rests on the jimping when I grip the knife. The thumb stud is mounted to the right side. It's fairly small, but like the jimping, it has some sharper points to prevent sliding off during deployment. And thanks to the relief that's cut into the carbon fiber, you can get behind the thumb stud with the nail of your thumb, or you can rest your thumb directly on top of the thumb stud. The blade is made from Böhler M390. Now, apparently Böhler had a facility in South Africa. It may still have it, I'm not sure. Jason was able to send his blades directly to them for heat treat. And he includes the heat treat certificate with his knives. So I'm just going to show you on the screen the certificate that came with this knife, which I think is really cool. I've never seen any other knife maker include that. Now that Jason resides in Norway, I'm not certain he still does this, but again, it's certainly very cool for the knives that did get it. And again, I've never seen anything like this included with other knives, so that was pretty impressive to me. Now, the titanium pocket clip is a fairly unique design. This Y shape was inspired by the flag of South Africa. Another unique feature of Jason Guthrie knives is the Gti Lock. GTI stands for Guthrie Tungsten Insert. Now, this knife predates the GTI Lock, but Livewake 1 did send the knife back to Jason to be retrofitted with this particular upgrade. Now, this particular feature is a design to limit, if not completely eliminate, lock transition due to lock face wear, thanks to the incredibly hard tungsten carbide insert. It's coming in at a hardness of 90 HRC. Now, I'm not aware of any other knives that incorporate tungsten carbide into the lock interface, so that's a pretty fascinating innovation to me. You can read more about it on the Guthrie website. So what do I like about this knife? I'll be honest, it takes a lot for a knife that deploys via thumb stud to impress me. I'm really more of a flipper guy these days, but this one sure does impress me. It is insanely smooth and effortless. Deployment is really next level. It's honestly an order of magnitude better than my Sebenza 31, for example. Don't expect it to have a drop shut action. This knife is on washers, but you can still wiggle it closed. Now, fans of Through My Lens know that I am a sucker for carbon fiber, and the carbon fiber presentation scale on this Ranger really is fantastic. Now, it was ordered with lightning strike carbon fiber, but much of the copper fiber, or carbon wire, much of the copper wire that was originally present has worked itself out, which can happen with lightning strike scales. Now, you can still see hints of copper wire more near the pivot. If I can shine, maybe you can see some of that copper wire that was in there. It was really, really quite nice. Now, I will say that if both of these knives were equally available, in other words, if you could get one as easily as the other, I think I would choose the Ranger over the Sebenza if I were looking for a good quality practical knife that deploys via thumb stud. You get more in blade length than you do with the Sebenza in a lighter package, which is pretty compelling. Considering how universally loved and legendary the Sebenza is, hopefully you will appreciate just how high praise it truly is to prefer the Ranger over the Sebenza. Now, what would I change about the knife? I will say that it doesn't really have a good option for opening it with your left hand, which again is the same thing with the Sebenza. I really don't think it's as simple as saying just put a thumb stud on the left side of the blade, because it really doesn't look like there's enough clearance to make a thumb stud on the left side of the blade usable. That's a bit of a problem with the Sebenza as well on the double thumb stud models, or if you send a single thumb stud model in for to get another thumb stud put on the left side, you can't access the left side thumb stud as effectively as you can the opposite side. Now, that's important for me to be able to use a knife defensively if needed, and as a concealed carry permit holder who carries on my strong side, I like to carry my knife on my weak side, my left side, which means this particular knife would not work as well for me because I need to be able to deploy it left-handed. Now, it looks as though the pocket clip mounts to the standoffs on the lower portion of the knife. It appears as though they go through the titanium frame, allowing the two prongs of the pocket clip to be mounted on the standoffs via screws. It seems to add a lot of chunkiness to the dimensions of the knife, and I'm not crazy about that somewhat sharp screws that they're using here. I kind of wish they were more flush to the clip. It's not really a problem per se. It's really more of a nitpick. Beyond those minor issues, again, I think that the knife is fantastic. Again, because Guthrie's kind of a one-man show, a custom knife maker. You can't just run to Walmart and pick one of these up. You can't just go to his website and drop one into his cart. But if you can either run across one on the secondary, or Jason maybe does a drop or opens up his books, I highly recommend the Jason Guthrie Ranger. Well, there you have it. There's my review of the Jason Guthrie Ranger. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Take care. God bless. We'll see you in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this production from the Through My Lens YouTube channel. If you did, please click on the like button and do share the video on social media. If you'd like to see more content like it, please do subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and do check out Through My Lens at www.throughmylens.org.